Hi, today I want to talk to you about micropipettes. These are a molecular biologist's best friend, and they are a tool that we're going to use in our labs throughout the whole year. So it's important that you learn to use them, learn to love them. They're going to help you out all year long. Alright, so in our labs we have three sizes of micropipettes. We have the P1000, the P200, and the P20. Their names are written on their tops. Alright, so we use micropipettes when we want to pipette microliter amounts of liquid. The P1000 is what you would use, well, let's start. The P20 is what you would use to pipette 2 to 20 microliters. The P200 you use for 20 to 200 microliters, and the P1000 you use for 200 to 1,000 microliters. So their names correspond to the maximum volume that they can pipette. Never ever try to use or set a micropipette beyond its volume. That will harm the pipette. Alright, so once you have selected the appropriate size of micropipette, the first thing you're going to do is adjust its volume reading. Now each pipette has these 3 digits on the front, and when you turn the knob, those digits change. These digits tell you what volume it is set to pipette. You change it by turning the black knob here, or the white, or the top. Alright, now reading and setting micropipettes is the trickiest part of using them for students, so let's talk about it for a minute. On the P1000, if it reads 100, it's going to pipette 1,000 microliters. A setting of 055 will pipette 550 microliters. If the P200 reads 100, it's doing 100 microliters. 055 would be 55 microliters. The P20, 100 is 10 microliters. 055 is 5.5 microliters. That probably sounds pretty confusing, but once you get used to it, it actually makes sense. And the pipettes also have red digits to help you out with this. So the P1000, its first digit is red. That red indicates a decimal point. So the P1000 really is reading 1.0 milliliters, 0.55 milliliters. And if you remember your unit conversions, that's the same as 1,000 microliters and 550 microliters. The P200 now has no red digits, no decimal points, so it's the easiest one to read. 100, that's straight up 100. The P20, its last digit is red, indicating a decimal point before that digit. So the P20 really reads 10.0 microliters and 5.5 microliters. Alright, so practice this. This is the trickiest part for students. Now once you do have your micropipette selected and the volume set, the next thing you need to do is put on a disposable tip. Never ever pipette without a disposable tip. That will harm it. You can see since this tip is blue, somebody has done that. No good. Alright, so our tips come in 2 sizes. There's large tips and there's small tips. The small ones are yellow. That again is another trick that you use to make sure you're correctly using the size. The P20 and the P200 have yellow tops. That tells you use the small yellow tips. Alright, I've set my volume. To put my tip on, I firmly tap it into place. You're not slamming it in and you're not weakly just putting it on. Alright, one firm tap and you should be good. Now, your pipette, the plunger, sorry, forgot that word. The plunger is what you use to actually get your volume in. And the plunger has 2 stops. You'll just have to feel that when you actually get your hands on a real pipette. But there's the first stop and the second stop. The first stop corresponds to the volume that you've set the pipette to. The second stop does not correspond to any volume. And I'll go over the purpose of that second stop for now, in a little bit. But right now, to get our volume, we're going to go to the first stop, hold it there, go into the liquid, and you don't have to go all the way down, just go a little bit below the surface, release the plunger. I now have my liquid. Now I'm going to dispense by putting the plunger down to that first stop. And if you can see, well, you probably can't see, but when you've got your hands on, you'll see there's a little bit of liquid still left in my tip. This is the purpose of the second stop. I now go to the second stop and it blows out the rest of that liquid. All right, once I've dispensed it all and I'm out of my solution, I release and I use the ejector button here to eject my tip into a trash receptacle, not just out like I just did. All right, so those are the basics of using the micropipette. The one other thing I want to warn you of is never ever, when you have liquid and a tip on it, put it horizontal or upside down. That could let the liquid go back up into the micropipette, which would be very, very bad. So don't do that. But just practice. It's going to be awkward and take a while in the beginning, but you're quickly going to get the hang of it if you just practice a lot.